So here we go, guys. Another day, another data mine by Zabi. So thank you, Zabi, for doing this. And of course, let's take a look on three major changes that we saw basically on the data mines. We start off with the Eurofighter. The flight model got changed again, guys. There are two basically major changes over here. One of them is that basically now above max 0.97 and then above 1.2, we basically have a little bit more drag on the canards and on the vertical stabilizer. So the aircraft itself will have a little bit more drag in the higher speeds. Not too high, you know, max 0.97 is not that high, but indeed it is going to be a little bit more drag. It's not by much, but it is more drag after all, okay? And another change to the thrust of the engines. So basically got decreased. So now we have less thrust when it's going above 1,000 kilometers per hour up to 1,920 kilometers per hour by 400 kilogram force, right around there. But at least when you are above 1,920 kilometers per hour, we have more thrust. So it's not by much, 400, 500, you know, it's not by much, but it is indeed a change. So basically kind of we have a NERF from 1000 to 1900 kilometers per hour in thrust, and then above that we have in the same number above. Okay, so these are the changes to the Eurofighter. So kind of a NERF, kind of a buff, depending on how you fly it. You're never gonna see more than 1900 kilometers per hour normally in a batch, normally. So it just means, I mean, I'm talking about probably IAS over here, so it's, yeah, complicated, right? But it's not by much, it's just a small buff and nerf, okay? So the next one is basically a correction, right? So I talked about how the Rapier missile got better. I was actually mistaken on the missile itself. So I was actually talking about, I thought I was talking about the Rapier Mark II, but the Mark II, it's pretty much the same. The major change comes to the stock one, which is the Mark I. So now it has 685 meters per second of max speed, as you see there. And of course, we have other things like, for example, the booster force. It is 700 newtons stronger with 1 second more. We have a sustainer that it's weaker, but it would mean that, and it has less mass. So in a general sense, it would mean that the missile will actually go a little bit faster at first, and then probably just a tiny little bit slower afterwards. But I have to check that as well. The major thing is that it is faster at first with the stock missile, which means more energy, which means better controllability. Is that a word? I don't know. But anyway, basically means that you can control a missile like this a little bit faster, and it basically means that the stock range of the Rapier is going to be a tiny little bit better. So very, very cool. And the last thing that it's really one of the things that I wanted to talk about here, because there are other changes, but the last thing is that the Harrier T.10. So if you are buying the Harrier T.10, you actually got a pretty significant change, which is the BOL pods. So finally it is getting the BOL pods. You can add them onto these pylons over here, the middle pylons with the A9, which is pretty good, because then you can take, for example, you know, the GBU 12s, for example, here, or even more chaff if you want to. I don't think it's needed with the BOL there, but you know, you can take the GBUs and still take the extra payload there, and it would mean that this loadout actually carries 320 countermeasures. So yeah, the BOL pod is a very standard pod that we have in the NATO aircraft, right? So it makes sense that we are seeing that, and yeah, very, very cool if you are planning to have the Harrier T.10. And basically this is it, guys. I know it's not much. Of course, the update, I don't know, like this dev server, it feels like very small changes coming up. But, I mean, we have some changes to talk about. But in a general sense, it feels like a very normal, you know, just very tiny change for us to actually have, right? So, I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe. Probably tomorrow we will have another update on the dev server, probably the last one, and then of course it will end shortly after that in the next day. And yeah, then I think we're kind of ready. The flight models are pretty ready. Everything looks pretty okay. You know, at first it was kind of missing a lot of things, but right now I think most of the things are actually added here, which is good, because then we can actually move on and get to the patch itself, right? We are almost at mid-March, and we already had so many days of that it's just kind of funny that we didn't have the patch yet. Even the F-18C that didn't, the early model that didn't have a cockpit, now has the cockpit, right? So we are very, very close, I think, for the patch, and just very small changes will come tomorrow probably. So yeah, see ya guys, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and bye guys, see ya.